YOLO composing gloves here, and today we're going to be talking about wavetables. And we're going to be looking at what they are, the basics of them, and using the wavetable editor to create some cool things. Probably will be multiple videos. So the first one here is, what is wavetable synthesis? So wavetable synthesis is real easy, right? So we know that waveforms are what makes sound sound. So here it is. We have a waveform. Let's go into the editor. So you get to the editor by clicking this pencil tool. So we see we could scroll through our wavetable here and see it, and they're in what's called frames. So here's one waveform, and then we could go over to the next frame. We'll go to frame 17, whatever. We see it's slightly different. As we go through these frames, we can change. So it's kind of like an animator drawing like a cartoon. If they want to make the cartoon look like it's moving, they would draw a picture, and then another picture with it at a different spot, and another picture, and another picture. And when you go through those pictures quickly, it'll look like they're waving or moving or doing whatever it is that they're doing, as long as you draw the right pictures. Well, we can do the same. So we have one waveform, and we can move to another waveform, and it sounds like we're morphing to it. And in sound, that tends to just sound cool. Like, that's cool sounding. You heard what it sounded like earlier. And so if we come in here, that is exactly what's going on here. I have an envelope scrolling through the frames, and that makes it sound like a growl is happening. Now, waveforms are just lists of numbers. So basically what we're doing is we're scrolling through sets of lists of numbers very quickly. So I can actually audition other wavetables. So wavetable synthesis, there's kind of two parts. You could just use wavetables that have already been made, which is what I usually recommend doing. Or you could make your own wavetable, which is more of a sound design topic. So it's not as quick production-wise, but it can result in really unique sounds that can be really valuable to production. So there's two sort of flavors. If I scroll through here, we can quickly audition other wavetables. So let's go to like morphs, and here's just some basic ones. Now I have some distortion and reverb and stuff, so just ignore that. Okay, so let's go over to like spectral. There's some good ones in here. That's the one I was using. Very cool. FM's also great for this kind of like bassy stuff. Like, just listen to that. But of course, we can make really nice bell sounds and all sorts of cool sounds. So, okay, let's go ahead. Let's go through this and get a grip on what's going on here. So, we know what these things are. We know what this is. Our frames scroll through here. I like to use like an envelope and hook that up so it scrolls through it for us. Maybe not all the way. And I'm going to bring my attack up. Just so you know, release will not make it go back down. You have to have your sustain down in order to go backwards for the envelope. So you see it went back. We need a decay that's longer so it didn't do that so quickly. So there we go. Very nice, right? Very nice. So, okay, that's that. Now we could select our different wavetables. You saw all different kinds. We'll go over more wavetable examples in later videos, because this is like, how do you know which wavetable to pick for what sound? Or how do you get a feel for that, right? Because there's not really a correct one, but there's definitely some things that'll produce better results for what you're looking for. And of course, it just totally depends on the type of sound that you're after. So we'll be looking at interesting ways to use that. Besides scrolling through our frames, we can also use band limiting, which is basically just a filter so that the high frequencies don't get in our way. Now, the real interesting section is when we decide to make our own wavetable, right? So we get this section, that's the editor, the wavetable editor. So I'm going to go to File, New, and there's a bunch of ways we can generate wavetables. I'm only going to cover the basics here, but let's make an interesting one, shall we? So first, let's make a sine wave. So the easiest way to make a sine wave is to just use the wave tool. So we're going to click that. Now we have a wave tool, and it's made a sine wave. Now you notice we're only on frame 1. If we look here, the whole wavetable is still empty, besides the first frame. Now we're going to hit done, and so we have our first frame. The rest of it's empty though, so if we try moving through this, which you have to move this one to do, you see nothing. And we're scrolling through. If we let it go, there's our sine wave. But as soon as we go off, it's gonzo. So let's make a second waveform. This time I'm going to use the pen tool, and I'm on some other frame 106. And if I drag in some points here, I get my waveform. Now, if things are smooth, they're going to sound more filtered because they're closer to a sine wave. If you click a point, or not click a point, right click a point, it will make the line straight, which introduce higher harmonics. So if it's the steeper the slope of the line, the higher the harmonic is required. So this will introduce more higher harmonics than a less steep line. Good to know about. So with this, we're going to have like sort of an edgier sound here. So I want to make this done. So now we have this, but I want to go between them. So I can hit the morph tool. You can't make a selection with this. You have to just hit morph, and then it'll do that for you. And we have these things, these little blue guys are called keyframes, and they sort of decide where things start and stop. So I want the morph to stop here. We're going to do something special with the second half. Now, here's what our morph looks like. However, this is the linear morph. We're going to go to the spectral morph, which considers the frequencies more than the actual shape of the line. And we can see here we get a lot more of this middle, like sort of weird stuff. These are the this is the frequency contact interacting. I am not 100% sure if line is literally referring, if it's linear in the fact that it's referring to actual lines and it's geometrically interpreting the graph, which I'm pretty sure that's what that means. But like, I don't know. I could be wrong. Just being totally honest with you here. Not 100% sure. But I know spectral considers the spectral content. So I'm assuming the other one doesn't. But anyways, that's what we have. Let's turn our envelope on so we can hear it. So that's what it sounds like. And then this is with the line. So not a huge difference. A lot of these things will come out more in the distortion and things. So we're going to hit done. And now for our last waveform, we are going to we'll freehand draw something in. So we can freehand draw. We'll go like up, down, maybe a little bit of this, and then up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down. Sure. We'll hit done, and we will spectral morph this. We only want to morph it from this frame over. I like what's going on here, and we will do linear. What the heck? Now, some of these are going to be softer. Like, we don't always know that our waveform is being at its max and min, which can be a good thing. Well, that's pretty nice. But what we're going to do is we're going to normalize it. It fixes that problem. Great. Now what I want to do is I want to add an effect to the wavetable. So there's a whole bunch of tools. Like you can use a filter and edit the harmonics down here if you want. You can even adjust the phase of the individual harmonics. Like if we click on them, we have these phase knobs. And if you scroll if you're over this and you scroll your mouse wheel, you can get closer and get at each harmonic. That's really great. But I find that doing things that affect the general process often helps more. So first, let's go in here and let's go ahead and use the sync ability. And we see here we can affect a region. I want to affect the whole thing. Let's hear it. And I really like that effect. We can change what's going on down here with the mix, overlap, and multiplier. But I'm fine with this, so I'm going to hit OK. And I dig it. Now what I want to do is I want to apply another effect. Let's do disperser. You can affect only a region if you want to. I'm going to bring the amount up. Let's come over all the way. I like that. We'll bring the mix down. I like what's going on there. So I'm going to go with that. What the heck? I'm going to normalize it one more time. And I think I'm going to call it there for this. Let's go ahead and see what we can do in post now. So we've generated a wavetable using basic methods, some effects, and we generated a couple waveforms and morphed between them. I did it a bit quick, but again, it's just you move the keyframes if you don't want to adjust everything. I keep trying to make selections and then edit only a selection. Again, that's not how this works. You select a process and then you adjust the keyframes. And yeah, so there we go. So we've got our basic wavetable. Let's add a distortion. I'm just going to add the regular distortion effect. Distortion, please. Now let's clean up the low end with a 3-band EQ. So I'm going to bring the lows down. And I like me some comb filters. So let's grab a comb filter. Let's hook this up to the frequency to the envelope. Yeah, I dig it. Let's edit this a bit. Let's bring the mids out. Whatever, we'll go with that. I'm working kind of fast, so I don't want to like spend a long time fine tuning things, but that's what makes a cool sound. So maybe it's worth it. Bring the decay way down. We don't need that long of a decay. And I also have my polyphony on 1. I changed this earlier. So it's on 1 voice and it's already in legato. So maybe a bit quicker. And that's pretty dang cool. Like, we're going places. Is it done yet? No, by no means is it done. But we're able to create some pretty cool sounds. Now, naturally, we could audition some other wavetables real quick by just hovering over them and just seeing like, oh, let's check out growls with our particular processing chain. Oh my gosh. And so we can check out other wavetables and try to see what processes they used and then emulate those backwards. But this is just an introduction. You saw some really elementary wavetable creation methods. There's also this whole other thing where you can use samples in order to generate wavetables. And there's entirely separate tools that are more powerful in wavetable creation. They have just like oodles and oodles of menus. And then you can import those here and use them in any wavetable synth. So when you're using a wavetable synth, it's not necessarily always that you want to make the wavetable for your sound. A lot of the times, you just want a cool wavetable. That's why you might see people talk about importing their wavetable libraries, because there are certain wavetables that you'll stumble across that you will really like, and they're worth having separated out into folders so that you can quickly grab them. If you have any questions about this, let me know, and have a blessed day.